Now, what we're going to do now is we're actually going to go look at an upcoming sale in Thurston County, Washington. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we were going through with our membership program on the weekly webinar an auction that happened in Washington where we found properties that actually sold at opening bid or very close to opening bid amounts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and go on bid for assets, and we're going to look at this upcoming Thurston County sale and just kind of go through and do a review on some of the properties. We're going to look at some of the records that we were just talking about, looking at the assessment records, looking at the GIS map, and kind of going through and doing a quick evaluation on some of the properties that are available on this list.
All right, so we're going to go and check out the sale coming up here in Thurston, Washington, right here. So what he's saying is there 64 properties starting at about $2,200, and we can see, deposits need to be in by January 7th. If we want, we can go down here and we can see, go down here to the auction folders here. And so the way this works, we have different batches here for the property. So it includes a bunch of different properties here. So let's go here. This property right here. So this one right here, we see it has a current bid, or it has an opening bid amount of $32,000 because it doesn't actually have any bids yet. So that's the opening amount here on it, but we can see it does have a physical address here for us, which I'm just going to copy that while we're looking at it. And then if I scroll down here, then we can see some more details about the property. We can see that it is, so that is, yeah, that's that address. I think it's the same one I copied yet. It is. And we have the value on it, which, it lists the improvements as being valued at $437,000 for a total assessed value of about $601. And we actually have a title report. It's one of the nice things about Washington specifically is access. A lot of times they provide title reports in their records, and that's nice for us because we can basically kind of go in here and we can see things about the property, including if it has liens.
So that does give us a level of security that other areas may not have.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, I've got some of the securities here.
Some of the different
yeah, liens here against the property in total. So let's see, starting here. So you can see right here, delinquent taxes for the years 2022, 23, 24, and 25 in the amount of $30,000, which includes interest and penalties together with the cost of foreclosure. So it's not included there in the coverage, and that's actually about the amount that's owed in taxes. $32,000 is the opening bid, right?
So that does give us a level of security that other areas may not have.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, I've got some of the securities here.
Some of the different
yeah, liens here against the property in total. So let's see, starting here. So you can see right here, delinquent taxes for the years 2022, 23, 24, and 25 in the amount of $30,000, which includes interest and penalties together with the cost of foreclosure. So it's not included there in the coverage, and that's actually about the amount that's owed in taxes. $32,000 is the opening bid, right?
So that does give us a level of security that other.
Yeah. So let's see. Now here is a state lien. This is a lien claimed by the state of Washington under Department of Employment and Security for $565.
I don't think that one's going to stick, but what we could always do is go ahead and look on the clerk's records and see if the property is collateral. Now there's one that looks like it's from Puget Sound Power and Light Company. Now that's one that very well could be attached to the property because it looks like a utility lien that we talked about previously.
Oh, yeah, they also have easements against with the property, I think. Yeah, or at least I think there are a couple of those are easements that were recorded. I mean, look how, so you can see when the easements actually were recorded originally, an easement there in 1937, that's for electric transmission and distribution line. There's another one we can see there in 1983, that's the same thing. And then another one there in 83, that's another easement. And
Those very well could just be power lines that are running underneath the ground. So, there it's pulling up any of the judgments and liens against the property, which we didn't see any of government issued liens because those were actually easements on the property.
Yeah. And let's see here. We see anything else. There are more easements. And here is a value assessment here on the property. And some of the other details here. Let's do this. Let's pull up the property address too, which we have on it. Oh, that is a nice looking property here. Oh, let's see so this is a street image here is from May of 2023. So, it's a year and a half old roughly, maybe 2 years old. But it's a nice looking house here. We can see it's on the end of this little road here. I've got that. And let's just quickly look at the valuation on it real quick. Let's see what it's valued at compared to the county's estimated value there of 600,000. So the county estimate's not too far off, and Zillow puts it at 648. And let's see what Redfin. Also, lately we've noticed at least that a lot of times Zillow values are oftentimes just showing assessed values or estimated market values by the county. But see that, so here on Redfin it's 606. Between those two, really, they're not that far off at all from what the county record, is saying on the property. So that's not a bad property here. And what's also nice about it is it's $30,000 opening bid amount. Seems like a lot, but in reality, it's only, it's 5% of the property's estimated value, which is a really good low opening bid amount. Sometimes opening bid amounts can add up to quite a bit more than that. So basically what it means is that this property has lots of room, to bid up with the taxes that are owed currently on it. We'll see what happens there with the sale or not, but the property itself, though, is pretty nice. Built in 2008. It's so new that it's also one that, again, if you were bidding on this property, you could bid it up to a higher percentage of value because it's new enough that it's probably not going to need as much work, as something, let's say, that was built in 1960. A 2008 property is going to have far newer stuff there, and should be easier to deal with. It also probably means I would give it a higher chance of redeeming just because of that. It does have a lot of value there to it.
Let's go ahead and look at the GIS map and the assessor information.
Why is their thing not working here? Let's go to the GIS. And all right, so I have this is pulling up here. Let me go back here and grab that parcel number here, or that APN real quick. Let's see if it will work here with that. There we go. And let's see, let's find our there we go. Okay, and base maps here, aerial 24. There we go. And all right, so I can zoom up just a little bit here, and yeah, we can see the property. That makes sense here from what we were seeing with where it's located at. So it's on the end of this road, this Charlie's Way.
The thing that's nice about this is you can see there's quite a few bigger homes within the area. They all look like they're newer homes. So we're talking about a pretty good area here. Also, one thing that's really nice about these maps is underneath the show layers or the county base maps, many times they'll have topographical maps, they'll have floodplain maps, they'll have even utility type maps. And so these can be really beneficial for us, not only to get a look of where the property is located, but also some of those key other maps that we can utilize to determine other aspects of the property.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, Yeah, so looking at the property though, and based on what we can see too, the valuation is decent on it. We could say, if we wanted, just for the sake of simplicity, we could say the property's valued at 600,000. Um, with those numbers where it's starting at here, 300,000. I mean, obviously, uh, that would probably be a good starting point here with it. You know, bidding on a property like this, it's probably not going to sell for cheap, but you know, could it sell for, could it sell for some amount? Let's say under 300,000. It could. You know, it has a decent chance at selling for 300,000 or less. And what's nice about that is, again, you know, it's a single transaction that has a ton of potential profitability in it. I don't know if it's going to sell for much more than 300,000 either, but even buying it at that price, you know, would leave you a lot of potential profitability for a single deal. You know, which again, it would take more cash too, because again, you've got to have the 600,000 outright in cash there to pay for it. But you know, you could make the money on it pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we'll have students that ask us, what type of property will you pay 50 cents on the dollar for? This would be an example of one of those type of properties. Usually we're trying to get in between 10 to 30 cents on the dollar for most of them. But if we're talking about a newer property in a nice neighborhood at a higher value, well, even if you did have to spend 300,000 for it, you have an additional $300,000 worth of potential profit. And the fact that we're looks like a newer property, we would do our on-site evaluations to determine the condition. But from there, we can say, okay, because it's a newer property, and because it's a higher value property, then it makes sense in this kind of situation to pay up for this property to be able to win it.
Yeah, it would absolutely be worth paying up to get that, to get it at that price. Just because, again, the only thing you would really probably need to do with it is take it through quiet title, and a lot of the parts about the house itself is probably going to be fine. So, basically, quiet title is about the only thing you would need to do most likely in order to sell it. All right, let's look at the next one here. So this one has an opening bid amount of roughly $10,000. And let's see, we do have an address here on it. Let's see. Oh, and so this one's actually acreage. You know, we can see right here it's listed as 28 acres. It does have, there's a physical address up here. You know, maybe you'll see what that pulls up here. And just see what that looks like anyway. Okay, so we can see here. Yeah, let's take a look at where it actually is. Copy that, and then let's plug it in. And there, oh, there are two of these. There's one. Let me go back here to the other one here. Is
I
it
think it's just to the left of there where that the pink lot is.
right here?
Yeah, they've got them on either side of the tracks, but this is the big 28-acre lot right here, I believe.
Oh, yes, I think it is. Oh, let me pull it up here again. I thought I clicked on the other one here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's probably 28 acres, right? It doesn't look like 28 acres to me. It looks like about 10.
Yeah, it does look smaller. Maybe it includes that back lot as well.
Yeah,
Does it have the acreage over there in the county record to the left?
under the assessor information, or
Yeah, you can check the assessor. It may have it there as well, at the bottom somewhere.
oh, that's weird. Their own links don't work. Let's see. It doesn't show the acreage here on this part of it. Uh, Here's the information page here. Let's see. So this does have listed here 28 total acres. But yeah, for some reason that does not seem like 28 acres to me. Maybe it's possible here.
That's definitely something we'd look more into before deciding to bid on it, though.
Yeah, yeah, without a doubt, we would want to know that for sure. Yeah, that's just, maybe it's 28 acres. I don't know. You know how we could probably figure it out here is if we just got the length, uh, you know, get a couple of measurements here or estimates. We can just do a length by width and see what the total area on that is, and we can get some idea if we're anywhere close.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think I agree. It's but maybe 10.
Yeah.
And maybe it's that parcel up to the north of it. We'd have to look a little bit more. Maybe it's the county record is wrong on the size and it could have been split. If it had that piece up there above it as well, then maybe it could be. And it was interesting because it came up with two parcel numbers. And so that may be part of the mistake as well.
Yeah, that looks more like 28 acres. That one right there does. Or at least, yeah, it'd be easier for me to believe that that was 28 acres.
But this is a good example of, there being a question mark that we would need to determine before bidding on the property. Because, we're seeing a discrepancy here between what the county record shows and what it looks like to us as far as looking at the GIS map. So in this case, we'd check to see, is there more than one property attached to it? Or is there some type of mistake within the county records before determining how much we're willing to pay for it and what the value is.
Yeah, it is kind of bizarre that way though. Only showing those two. And those are owned by the same person, which is not the same party, that owns the other ones here. One thing that is nice is that this is one of the counties here. We can click on any property and it just tells us and shows us basically who the property owner is. So we can see the one right next to the property here is owned by the state of Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. Is this one right here. And let's see, that's some kind of an operation here at the Port of Tacoma.
Yeah, there's definitely some type of mistake though. And that's kind of what we're looking for. Is there any type of red flags or is there anything that stands out? In this case, let's say that it's only 10 acres and there's a mistake. That doesn't mean that we wouldn't bid on the property. We just need to take that into consideration in determining the value and also probably contact the county personally in this case to try to ask them about it because we might not be able to figure it out just looking at the online information. This is a case where we probably need to call the county and find out.
Yeah, we can see here, they value it at about 238,000 is what they set that value at. Of course, that's interesting though, because this one is putting the land value at 36,000, and then it's putting $200,000 value on the building. Which is kind of odd. Yeah, it's definitely one we would need to look into more here in order to figure out what the story is here with it. Yeah, here, it does show improvements here too. So there is a house there.
They're also showing a higher value here. So there's definitely some type of mistake here within this particular property.
Yeah, that's
Sorry about that.
interesting.
Another one.
Okay. And we can see we've had some of the properties have redeemed. This is the sales going. Here's one that opens up at 16,000. And we have a physical address here on it. And if we look down here, we have improvement value of 99,000 for a total assessed of 295, and this is 1.25 acres. Let me plug in that house address first, and we'll plug in the parcel number. Okay, I think it's probably, maybe that's a private drive or something back there for their property. Let's just grab that real quick and there we go. Oh yeah, yeah. So that makes sense. Now we can see that it's that Woodgrove Street southeast.
Why that's important is that means that we have legal access to it. It's some type of legal access road. There's probably an easement that allows us to drive through this property to access our property. But the fact that it's, you know, illegal, that it has a name to it, essentially means that even though it's a private road, we're going to have access to the property.
Right, right. Yeah, basically it's a private road, but we have access to the property. You know, we can see there. And so that's the main thing that we would want, that we'd be concerned about, is making sure the property is accessible from there. But it looks like it is. Uh, let's pull up some of the other, look at the other information page here on it. You know, this summary is actually kind of interesting. You know, it does give us a lot of information here in one document. Yeah, you see some of the things that they have access to. I mean, they've got landslide hazard areas here. You know, so that would actually be something that you'd be able to determine, you know, if you were on certain slopes here. Although it did look like it was fairly flat. I think from the image we were looking at there, yeah, that does look fairly flat. And I think we can actually see back there a little bit.
You can see kind of the roof of it right there, that property further back.
Yeah.
Or it could be that property to the left. Maybe it's a little further down there. You know, but at this point, we'd go ahead and would look at the title report.
Just driving us crazy here how we cannot get this thing to his audio to normalize here for us. All right, we'll play with it for a second. Let's take a look here at another property here. Let's look at one more. All right, let's see here. Okay, so this one here opens up for 11,800. We've got the physical property address here. Now, interesting. Okay, so this one doesn't have any improvement value. It's only land. Does give it an assessed value of 185 at 6.2 acres. And let's see where the physical address puts us at. Oh, well, now that's interesting. I wonder if that must be the wrong place. Well, I guess that looks like the correct address here on the property. Yeah, that is correct. Olmsted Lane. And this image it's a new image, but that's not like it's a brand new house, I don't think. House has been there for a while. All right, let's see if we can see the image here on, let's pull up this GIS. That will tell us. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay, so now, all right, here we can see the location of this property a little bit better. And it is accessible here by this Olmsted Lane, now that road, but
I think this is part of the reason why I picked this property, is that there was a discrepancy between the address and where the actual location of the property is.
yeah, in fact, looking at it, it looks like it's right next, so right there where that house ends, uh, you know, right here, it starts right above this, and it is, now that house, let's see, is it the area in between that?
No, I think you had it right there. It was at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where's that big house at now that they've just built?
You've got to go out further so we can see more of the map, the GIS map.
Okay, I see where we're located at here. So we can see the Brownell Avenue southwest. We can see where that crosses and basically connects right below. Let's see if we can.
You know, one thing you could do as well, if you go back to that GIS map, you could actually click on the property next to it and see if there's an address there. And that might be able to tell us as well. That's for 544.
Yeah, 545 Olmsted. Yeah, that one is right next to the property. So it's basically to the property that's just to the left or to the south of this property. But yeah, in fact, that one is the one right next to it, right there. Yeah, I think that's correct. It's just on that other side of the road.
Yeah, it's just south of that property.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting one. Looking at it, it's probably, so it's 5 acres total here. You know, they are placing what's weird is that, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one here. Let's see here. Yeah, 6.2 acres, no improved value yet though, but that probably is usable, you know, by their standards.
See if underneath the layers, if there happens to be any type of topographical map. Doesn't look like it. Maybe underneath the county base. Many times on this type of property, we're going to look to see is there any type of other type of map that we can use to determine what the topographical issues may be, and they may not have it on this one.
Oh, hill, they call it hill shades. I think that's their topographical. I guess the type of topographical map here, at least I guess it shows you directions here, but that's not actually tension. But that's, I guess that's essentially kind of what that is. But yeah, that would not be as helpful here as just having a good topographical. And who knows, we may be able to find more stuff by playing with it here too, but you can at least get some idea here.
At this point, we'd need to find out what are the building restrictions for this area, what would the lot be zoned, and once we've determined that it's accessible and that it's usable, then we can determine what the value would be.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, as long as we make sure that that the property, I mean, it's accessible from that public road. We just want to make sure that it's usable by their zoning code. You know, that in this area and for what this property is, that it would be deemed usable, which it looks like from the other properties around it. It looks like it most likely is. I mean, looking at most of those, they don't appear to be bigger in size than this one. And there has been, you know, some level of construction, I think, that's been going on there. But no, that's kind of an interesting lot. That is actually, so it has a little bit lower, let's see, total amount here starting out at is at 12,000, but that's a property that also has had a very low bid to value ratio. I mean, it's valued at over 200,000, you know, and it's starting there at 11,000. You know, it's a pretty good low bid to value ratio, and basically it's just a building lot is really what it is. Now there are, let's see, we've got, let's look at one or two more here on this sale. Really, this is for a sale that's happening here pretty quick. These are pretty nice properties. And oh, I think that one just redeemed.
Yeah.
Now let's see here. Now let's look. Take a look at this one here. So $17,000 opening bid amount. Here we've got an address on the property, and the valuation on it is So the improvements are 295, the total assessed value of 425. We can see that it's on 0.12 acre. And we have the property address there. Let's plug that in first. Yeah, that does look like a nice neighborhood. And what's it parked? Is it next to something commercial, or maybe just a, let's go down there and take a look. Yeah, it is some kind of commercial setup. I don't know if that's a church or something, or some kind of a business. I guess we can't really get a good angle here on it. Yeah, that's about the best angle we're going to get on it. That's an image of July of 2024, so from last year. But that looks like a pretty new house, or at least it doesn't look that old necessarily. It looks like it's in good shape. Let's see if we can get an idea here. And let's get some of the property details here. So there we go. You can see it there. It was built in 2008, so it is a fairly new, new build here, and appears to be in good condition. But yeah, not that old. It's under 20 years old, which would be good for us to know if we were to plug in the value here. Let's actually see if let's look at that rundown real quick and see. So yeah, this one's R6 residential.
In fact, I think on some of their others, for some reason, their assessor data isn't pulling up. I mean, this one is, but they have another one that actually has photos of properties as well.
Oh,
So
really?
that link that's bad for whatever reason today, usually you can go to the assessor's page and believe it had photos of the property as well. I'm not sure what's going down with their system today.
Yeah, it's almost like all their assessment records are down. That's interesting. But yeah, we can pretty well get everything we need though without that. And just from the parcel details here, we can also get some of that information as well. In fact, yeah, you can learn quite a bit here just looking through all these. Yeah, this is their water information right here. This is landslide, wetland area. This is kind of all of that stuff. FEMA. And
So if we, got an idea of what this property is, then we could go ahead and do the on-site evaluation. We can do the comparative market analysis, and then determine what our high bid amount is based off of what the property is valued at.
yeah, yeah. In fact, there are a lot of good properties in this sale. I mean, my goodness, we've only looked at 2 badges here, just briefly. There's a lot more properties there. We've got more badges that are there. If this is the general quality of the properties in the sale, there's really nice properties. It would be a good sale to participate in. Probably I doubt it's going to have too much competition, or at least I don't know that you're going to have that many people that are going to be registered here for it, and the bids will go up too high. What we're hoping for is to participate in auctions where we're not bidding against a lot of other people, or properties are not bidding up too high. At least that's the goal, is to try to get properties there that we can get a lower percentage of value, and it's a good time of the year right now to get some of those types of deals. So yeah, 64 properties. If they're all like what we just looked at there, those are some great properties in this auction.